bad, but there's a silver lining.
And you are with the Schilling Show. Thanks so much for joining us weekdays from noon to 2. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, one of my favorite writers and a great thinker, Robert Ringer. His book, The Entrepreneur, The Way Back for the U.S. Economy. I can't wait for the discussion, and I'm very pleased to have in the studio right here with us right now the most recent announced candidate on the GOP side for lieutenant governor here in Virginia, and she drove all the way to join us in studio for what is in essence a short segment. Susan Stimpson, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity.
It is great to have you here, and I will encourage people to check it out online at susanstimpson.com. You had an introductory video, and of course, you are the chair of the Stafford County Board of Supervisors, and people may know your name from that service. But you were talking about some of the things that you've done in Stafford County, and I was really amazed. Would you tell us about your own record, especially regarding tax cutting and some of the results, because it was terrific?
Sure. I have a long history of grassroots involvement, and so, you know, from the sidelines, I would watch people run for the political process, and they would talk like an activist, but once they got into office, they would vote very much with the establishment or the bureaucracy. So we changed things around on our board. We really did a reform. We've been able to do a real estate tax cut for 3 years in a row. We eliminated B-Poll, which is a regressive business tax, the airport tax, zeroed out tax service districts. We've taken general administration personnel back to 2004 levels. We've focused funding to public safety and education, which really is the essential role of government. We really have just reformed Stafford County government.
I think we need to franchise you, because these are things that have been talked about in many places. They've been hard to achieve, but I think it goes back, Susan, to the lack of fortitude on behalf of elected Republicans and conservatives. I'm not expecting anybody on the left to be making these motions because they're all for growing government. So how did you actually do it? What was your secret?
Well, I think that you enjoyed some of the same success in your experience with local government. Part of it is just being willing to speak up, even when you know that it may not be particularly popular with some of the people that might be sitting in the audience or even people that you serve with, but it's just remembering who it is that you serve, that we're public servants, and we're there, you know, for the people who voted us into office, and remembering what the charge is, you know, is to represent them, to be a good steward of their resources. And so I just took that very seriously, and I was just able to bring together coalitions with my fellow board members of implementing these reforms.
You talk about this, and this is so important, and again, lost today very greatly. And we're talking with Susan Stimpson for Lieutenant Governor online at susanstimpson.com. Their resources. You recognize, unlike this president, unlike many people in local and state government, that money doesn't belong to you just because you got elected to spend it. The money belongs to the people, and therefore it should be treated with the utmost respect. But I've heard disdain for people's money by elected officials.
It's amazing the strength that the bureaucracy has. It's a constant weeding process, and you can't just chop the weed off halfway. You have to go at the root of it, and it's a constant pruning to remember that it is the people's resource, and it's not our resource. You know, the funds that we're bringing in, it's their hard-earned money. So every time government uses its power in taxing, it is taking away a freedom from the people who are having to pay that tax. So in my mind, if the government is going to tax anything, you better make sure that that is an essential role of government.
Susan Stimpson, I'm going to put my tongue in my cheek and ask you a question. Why are you a Republican, since the Republicans are attacking women? Aren't you under attack right now from your own party?
No, I would say that my fellow board members have treated me with the utmost respect and as their equal on the board. And I've had so many opportunities in the Republican Party that it's not about gender. I think that hopefully that's a story that maybe the other side would like to tell, but it really isn't. In fact, my fellow board members, with just a couple of years into it, they elected me as their chairman. So I am very happily Republican, although I want to keep pushing our fellow Republicans to really set ourselves apart on the platform that we say we believe: less taxes, less government, and defending freedom and liberty.
Including, and I saw this on your introductory video at your website, including the liberty and freedom of the unborn to be born.
That's absolutely correct. I'm very passionately pro-life, and it's consistent with the way that I govern. I think that every life has value. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter what role you have in society. In America, every life has value, and I take that fight for the unborn as well.
It's unfortunate that in this country today that we have people running for office on exactly the opposite. In other words, if you haven't been born yet, your life is worthless and it has no value. In fact, we celebrate the fact that we, at any time we want, can terminate these lives. And that has to extrapolate at some point to people as they get on the other end of the spectrum as well. Do you see that coming in this country?
I think that we have to be very willing to stand up for those who are innocent, and that would include the unborn. And all you have to do is look at what the Founding Fathers said. You know, government exists to secure and protect the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I think that that's what it all boils down to.
It's great to go right back to that foundational statement because really it's so simple. It's just 3 phrases, but it works, and it's worked for this country. It's what made us great, and we disregard this at our own peril. We're talking with Susan Stimpson for Lieutenant Governor, one of the GOP announced candidates. You can visit her online at susanstimpson.com. I want to talk to you about the office itself. Of course, the current Lieutenant Governor has been given an unofficial title as the Chief Jobs Creation Officer. How do you see the office of Lieutenant Governor?
I think that certainly Lieutenant Governor Bowling has embraced a new set to his job as Lieutenant Governor as far as, you know, the Chief Jobs Creator. The constitutional role of the Lieutenant Governor really is to preside over the Senate. What is interesting, though, about this next election is our Senate is now tied 20-20. Mm-hmm. So whoever wins the Lieutenant Governor is going to cast the deciding vote on issues that are really important to the grassroots, and that is taxes, how much government is going to intrude in your life. And so the reason I've thrown my hat into the ring is that I am willing to take my record of success in Stafford County and bring that same reform to Virginia government and apply it within its constitutional role to the Lieutenant Governor.
As you look at the size and scope of government, and certainly you have a great record, as you explained earlier, in Stafford County, cutting back some of the levels to 2004, how do we apply that to a state? It's a much bigger entity with lots of different subgroups inside in the established bureaucracy that would certainly fight that movement.
I think that true and lasting reform is something that is going to take time to do. I do think that where it really starts is with the grassroots themselves. I would never discourage someone from getting involved by saying, you don't have enough experience, you should do this first. I want to encourage people, start getting involved in your own community, on your own board of supervisors, on your own school boards, on your homeowners associations, so that we can impact these decisions that are being made. And if I would translate that into good governance at the state level, I would say that reform is going to be broad, but that there's a conversation that we can have about taxes, whether it's looking at B-poll, whether it's looking at consolidating services. I know one item in particular that we've done in Stafford County is just the courthouse can be an essential part of your community in doing business. And we opened DMV Select so that people who come in to do county business, they can also take care of their DMV needs right there in the courthouse. That eliminates a step for citizens. It's an easier, more essential path to getting, what they need from the DMV, but it also saves money and it's consolidating departments and programs. That's the type of reform I'd like to see in Virginia. You
talk about wiping out the B-poll tax, and that is a relic of, 150 years ago or so. I mean, it's a very old tax as I understand it. How did you sell that to the public? Because today we kind of have to sell people even on eliminating taxes.
Well, there definitely were voices that were saying that by doing that we were really going to harm Stafford County. I would say that the sky did not fall and the world did not end. In fact, Stafford County is a leader in job growth in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we know that this belief that lower taxes really does work, and focusing on economic development and just getting government out of the way of small business owners and allowing them to flourish.
It seems to me that if the citizens and the businesses of Stafford County, and let's extrapolate this to Albemarle County, had an extra 10 or 15 or $20 million in their pocket, that it would be a boon to the local economy instead of crushing to the county government.
I think just by the fact of the numbers that have come out for jobs in Stafford County, it shows that by reducing the tax burden on the citizens, that it would end up creating more jobs, and that's what it's done in Stafford County. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And
it's been proven time and time again. In every generation, we have somebody like Ronald Reagan coming forward and proving it to us, and then we fall asleep and forget. Again, you can visit her online at SusanStimpson.com. She is a GOP candidate for lieutenant governor, and I hope you'll come back as we draw closer to your election and spend an hour with us to talk about the issues that are important to the voters. And thanks so much for coming all the way here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and I really look forward to the opportunity of speaking to many Virginians over the next few months.
Yes, indeed, and you will have a great opportunity, and we'll continue that conversation here. And all the candidates are welcome, so I don't want anybody to feel slighted. We've had a couple of them here, but everybody is welcome on the Schilling Show, including Democrat candidates. All right, we're heading now to a break. When we get back, the book is The Entrepreneur, The Way Back for the U.S. Economy. Robert Ringer is the author, and if you don't know him, if you haven't read him, you need to. This is really, I think, a textbook for people that are concerned